Welcome back to another 10-minute episode. I'm your host, Aman Carney, and today, huge NFL news. Obviously, I believe it started with Mike Evans is staying with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, 2-year, $52 million deal. And then, pretty recently, like probably 30 minutes ago from the time I'm recording this episode, Russell Wilson has been released by the Denver Broncos. And honestly, it's shocking because, I mean, as of now, it's going to go down as top three most worst trades in NFL history because I feel like we all thought the Broncos got, at the time, their quarterback lead them to the Super Bowl and everything. And I might have a different opinion than most on this topic as it pertains to Russell Wilson. But before I start, make sure to comment down below what you think about the Russell Wilson situation, how Denver handled it, and then obviously tune into the weekly episodes over on Spotify and Apple that has not been on the past couple weeks. Tough schedule, but it will be back Saturday. Obviously, more F1 content coming and everything. And once I find time right, probably Wednesday, you're going to hear me recap Bahrain and look forward to the Jeddah Grand Prix. And we'll be on the lookout for that. And then follow us on YouTube, of course, and TikTok. But, I mean, let's get it started. We'll start it with Mike Evans, 2-year, $52 million deal. Honestly, 2 years. He's getting a little bit older and everything like that, but he's had the 1,000-yard season, I'm pretty sure, every season of his career. And people thought with Baker Mayfield that was going to break, but everyone was wrong. I mean, honestly, run it back with Baker. And even though the Buccaneers did cut Shaq Barrett for cap space and everything like that, honestly, like, the Buccaneers, they're going to win the division. Like, it's a weak division. Obviously, the Panthers have new head coach Dave Canales to help out Bryce Young, but like the Panthers, just they're a dumpster fire. They have no weapons on offense other than Bryce Young, handful of receivers. Miles Sanders was supposed to be really good for the Panthers offense, fell off a cliff. Then you got the Saints and Falcons. So I believe if the Buccaneers run it back with Baker, uh, then they'll be good. And but Baker's not taking like a hometown discount, meaning he's not going to take a smaller contract to stay with Tampa, because now that he actually did really well, in my opinion, should have been the comeback player of the year, because even though Joe Flacco had all those touchdowns, I mean, he led the league in interceptions. And if that was the only reason why Josh Allen wasn't MVP, then we shouldn't hold anyone else to a different standard. So that's just my opinion on how everything went, because Josh Allen rushed for touchdowns, passed for touchdowns, and yes, he led the league in interceptions once again. I believe he's led the league in interceptions since he's gotten drafted, but doesn't discount the fact that touchdowns he's throwing, the rushes he's making, the passes he's making. And when you ask a quarterback to throw that much, of course he's going to throw so many interceptions, and as is the case for Joe Flacco. But in Flacco's case, like, I get 26% of the roster was on IR, and I thought D'Amico Ryans deserved Coach of the Year, but Stefanski won it. And I get all the IR, everything like that, but we shouldn't hold players to different standards, and that's just my take on all that. And that's why Baker Mayfield was my pick for most improved player, and so now he's looking to get a fat contract either in Tampa or elsewhere, because average quarterback market like Kirk Cousins, Baker, other quarterbacks. And so obviously Kirk, depending on the team he goes to, could make a team Super Bowl contenders, playoff contenders, and whatnot. Same with Baker. And Baker obviously didn't work out with the Browns or in Carolina, and the Rams, that was kind of just a destination for barely a year or whatever, because obviously Stafford's there. But I think the Buccaneers shouldn't screw this up. You got a golden opportunity. Just run it back with Baker. And honestly, you lost by a possession by 8 points, I believe. one possession game before going to the championship game. And Niners, I mean, they face so many deficits throughout the playoffs that you have a semi-experienced, actually experienced team. Because even though you got Baker, you still got Mike Evans, a good amount of that defense, some part of the offensive line, and the coaches. And I believe Arians is in some front office role in Tampa, and you got Bowles as a head coach. Like, there's still experience, and so who knows if the Niners would have fallen back behind the Buccaneers. Who knows if the Niners would have caught up, because the Buccaneers, it's fair to say, they're more experienced than the Detroit Lions when it comes to the playoffs. And I know a large part was because of Tom Brady. That's the reason why they won a Super Bowl and everything like that. And that's just my take on it. And so they were so close to getting to the Super Bowl, and I believe they should run it back and see what happens again, because Baker, with the contract, with the weapons he has, just let him cook. That's what he was doing in Cleveland, but he's never been in a stable organization with a great coach for a long period of time, because the Panthers are just a dumpster fire for a while. They still are. Obviously, the Bears have the number one pick because of their trade with the Panthers. And I mean, with the Bears, like, you trading Justin Fields, sure, you'll get assets, but then you're drafting Caleb Williams. I don't care how good Caleb Williams is, you're still putting him on an average offense. And people keep bringing up, oh, this team has this amount of cap space and whatever, but all these star players, they don't want to join a team that's on the come up. They want to join a team that's immediate contenders. I feel like you're a playoff contender if you give Fields Marvin Harrison, and fine, he's a receiver, whatever, maybe not number one. If a receiver goes 2, 3, 4, whatever, that's fine. But Marvin Harrison, Buddy from LSU, and others, they're still going to be on the board. We'll see if there's great receivers on the board with their ninth pick, but I believe you should try to do what the Texans did and trade up to get picks back to back. Obviously, you're not going to get the second pick, but if you trade up to 4, 5, 6, draft a receiver next to Caleb Williams, only then I will say, yeah, you're legit playoff contenders. And even though they've been 8 and 9 the past couple seasons with Fields, I just think, like, Fields, the rushing ability is there. You're moving off from, honestly, a franchise quarterback, because there's certain quarterbacks, if you just give them weapons, they'll cook. And Fields is one of those players. You've given him average weapons, and we'll see what direction what direction Washington and New England goes. I believe they're going to get quarterbacks, both of them. But Marvin Harrison's there, like, just Marvin Harrison, DJ Moore, sign a running back, build the O-line, sign some defensive players, and you're on the come up. You might be a sleeper for the Super Bowl, because I feel like Marvin Harrison was NFL ready a year ago. And maybe not sleeper for the Super Bowl, but they could win a playoff game or two. You never know. They're definitely sleepers for that if they give Fields weapons, and it's as simple as that. Obviously, Caleb Williams, generational. I believe he's going to be an elite quarterback, but you're pretty much putting him on an average team. And is he better than Justin Fields immediately right after the draft? Maybe, but it doesn't make the Bears contenders to be in the playoffs, because the Packers were supposed to have a down year. They destroyed the Cowboys, almost beat the Niners, and so now you have them competing. We'll see if the Lions remain on top of the division, but you're in this competitive division, and I believe, like, Marvin Harrison's the way to go for the Bears. And then, obviously, like I said, Russell Wilson is out in Denver. I mean, top 3 worst trades in NFL history, plain and simple. Like, they gave up Shelby Harris, Drew Lock, Noah Fant, and I believe 5 picks. Devon Witherspoon was one of those players that came from the picks. I mean, the Seahawks set themselves up well with this trade. We'll see what they do with Geno Smith. Obviously, they have DK Metcalf. Jackson Smith-Njigba is only going to be better. Tyler Lockett obviously is getting on the older side, but like I said, you have JSN. Like, there's a lot of teams that are like a legit quarterback away from competing, and I believe the Seahawks are one of those teams. But as for Denver, you are finally finding yourself. And Russell Wilson had a bunch of practice squad players to play with, and then a head coach that just didn't care about him at all. And so, how is it fair to Russell Wilson? Russell Wilson, in my opinion, never got a fair shot. And when all of a sudden they were winning games, they tell him that they'll bench him if he doesn't remove his injury guarantee. Like, 37 million's a lot for an injury guarantee, of course, but it's part of his contract. Honor the contract that was signed unless you're releasing the guy mutually. You don't tell him that, oh yeah, they told me to take away my injury guarantee, and they got the NFL Players Association involved, the NFL and everything like that, and Sean Payton walks up to him and say, yeah, we got a game tomorrow, focus on that, don't worry about anything, pretend like nothing happened. Like, how can you even say that? Like, I know Drew Brees respects Sean Payton a lot. Sean Payton's a great coach for what he did in New Orleans. Everyone thought he was going to make Russell Wilson better. I wouldn't even know if Russell Wilson's better off with how poorly Hackett did. And you gave away a first and a second for Sean Payton and a third. And I think Sean Payton, you got to figure out something big and fast, because your legacy was set as a great NFL coach. Not the league has seen. You're definitely a great NFL coach, and your legacy was set. You had the ring with Drew Brees, a legendary Saints coach. Your legacy was set, and now people might not even remember you for being a great Saints coach, Super Bowl winning coach, in my opinion, with how badly he screwed up the Broncos organization. That's my take. Something's got to be done in Denver. Change that management, because that is not the right way to treat Russell Wilson. And Russell Wilson, like, Tim Patrick was a great receiver next to Cortland Sutton and Jerry Jeudy. Like, he got injured twice, 2 season-ending injuries back-to-back. Javonte Williams injured. Jerry Jeudy not even seeming to care about football, and you only got Cortland Sutton, Bowles on the O-line, and then I wouldn't even say you're a quarterback away. You're like signed like great receivers or running back, because people still want to play with Russell Wilson because you have a Super Bowl caliber defense. You're not a quarterback away. You're just a great running back. Like this offseason with great running backs, if you hadn't mismanaged Russell Wilson so badly, you could have been getting like a difference maker at running back or sign a couple of receivers. But now nobody's going to want to play with the Denver Broncos organization for how badly they treated Russell Wilson. And I believe they screwed the situation up. They screwed the potential free agents they could have been getting up, because everyone always wants to play for Russell Wilson, and this was the free agency to get a running back or receiver. That's my take on everything, because they might not even get the quarterback they want in free agency, because no one's going to want to play for Sean Payton and that management after this. So that's my take on everything. Tune in for another great NFL free agent offseason. But without further ado, thank you for tuning in to today's pretty much 13-minute episode. See you tomorrow for what Evan has to say.